Ahoy! Today we're making a tier list for the new, almost arrived patch 7.11. And important, this is not the tier list, okay? So please don't pause the video right here and be like, why is this where things are? Because this is just what the tier list is starting from. This is the tier list I made for patch 7.8 and 7.9. And this is basically going to be the update for that. So there will be a lot of things about this that will be changing, okay? So hold your horses on that. And if you are somebody who wants to skip right to the end, there's going to be one guard that I briefly want to mention. So I know it's going to come up. It came up in the last one. It always comes up. Anubis is currently an A+. And every time I put Anubis above A, people are like, wow, this tier list must be for bronze. Let's check Anubis, okay? Just Anubis. Here, this is Anubis on the current patch. This is his win rate in Diamond. He sits at 57% win rate in Diamond. That's the 5th highest win rate in Conquest. And if we go to Masters, maybe it's different Masters, he still sits at 54.92%. Grandmasters doesn't matter because it's like a selection of like 40 games, no, 20 games I think. So you're not gonna get any significant values from that. So Anubis is good in high tiers. He is arguably good enough to even be placed in S tier, but I'm not gonna do that. But if you're gonna be upset about Anubis, I'm just getting it out of the way. He is there because he's performing well on very high ranks. It is surprising to many still, apparently, but that's just what it is. Okay, now let's get into the tier list. For this one, I've done a lot of research throughout various means, basically. The point for this tier list, I said this last time, is not to tell you this is the guard you have to play or this is the best guard right now or everything like that. It's just a general idea, okay, which guards are performing well in the meta, which guards am I expected to generally perform well with, and which are not performing that well. So if I haven't played in a while and then I play this guard and I wonder why am I doing so poorly, is it me or is it the guard, or is it my practice with the guard maybe? So just a rough idea, okay? And with that out of the way, let's actually get into the list. So I looked a lot at the stats for different guards, so we're going to move a lot of things step by step, basically. Competitive doesn't factor in here, but especially higher ranks of ranked are a very major factor, and then certain other factors that come into play at certain points, because obviously, at the end of the day, every tier list is a little bit of personal feeling. So this is basically guards that you can do well with if you understand the main mechanics of the game, and if you practice these guards sufficiently. So first we're gonna move a few guards around because I just made like specific notes for those ones that are somewhere in the upper tiers and in the lower tiers and that just don't belong there. The first one is Freyja. Freyja is gonna go down really, really far. This, I don't know how many people it will surprise, but Freyja was just super good with Ring of Hecate. Ring of Hecate has been nerfed and it hit Freyja the hardest. She just hinges on this item, and old Freyja had always had this issue where she was either really strong or really weak, and we hit the threshold where she goes from really strong to really weak, and her win rate doesn't even justify A tier anymore. It's just below that at any point. Kronos, on the other hand, is actually doing better. He's pretty average now, so he goes up instead. Surprising considering he gets hit by the same nerfs, but again, this is the Freyja hint, I would call it. Then we have Bastet. Bastet I completely underrated. Bastet is actually doing really well at the moment. She's statistically doing incredibly well. I will put her at the top of A maybe, but you could even argue that she's A+ right now. With this one I have to say, I'm not 100% sure where this is coming from. I think Bastet works with the current items relatively well with the ability-based stuff. I suppose the rated edge could do her some good, but not really that much. Not sure. The Heartseeker nerf doesn't even seem to affect her, so not really sure what's going on there. I'm going to dig deeper on Bastet in the future, I think, because I'm very interested in that myself, but I have to do more specific research on that. Then we have the Morrigan, who I put in B because she's just super hard to play, it's situational, but she's actually doing a little bit better. We're just going to put her in the middle of A. Especially in higher ranks, she's doing a lot better than before. In lower ranks, not so much, but that's because she's hard to play. But if you get the hang of her, she's actually doing pretty well. I have my chart over here, by the way, and if you're wondering why I'm looking over there a lot. There's a lot of notes that I made for a lot of different guards, just to keep track of everything. And then we have Zeus. Zeus I put in B, and Zeus is doing pretty well. He could almost go into A+ as well. He's doing really well right now, stat-wise, so he's going into A. We have Janus. Janus, I was like wanting to put into A, but his performance is just not holding up. It's just not doing doing what you would want to do, and he's going not to be. It's just in ranked, he just doesn't do enough, or in non-competitive in general, he doesn't do enough. He struggles too much, even though some items at the moment are not even bad. Like, they're actually going in his favor. But especially mobility, I think, is something that other gods can get with Doom Up now as well, so that has less value. So that, I think, is a factor too. Then we have Bakasura. Bakasura is going down. He's just average now. He's just a very average god. I don't think he has any justification to stay up there any longer. And the same actually goes for Kukulkan performance-wise. I thought that he would do really well with some item changes. I think this may have been the... No, it was before the glacial changes, but maybe it was some prediction or something. But either way, he did not show up to the extent I expected. Maybe it's the mystical male change as well. So he's just very in the middle right now. Jing Wei also not doing like crazy anymore in regard, so she's just also going to be average. And then the same applies for Neith. So those are like the minor shifts that I don't really need to go into detail on. They just skipped a little bit in their performance, like up and down, more or less. But we have more. We have Olorun as well. Olorun is still doing well, I would say, but not as well as before. I think the Ring of Hecate nerf hit him too, so he's more of an A+ material, roughly, if I remember that correctly from the top of my head right now. Still a good god, but yeah, right now, like towards the higher end, above 50% win rate and stuff, but not like up there. The S tier surprisingly doesn't change all that much. I would say we take Nemesis out of there. We put in an A+. She's also, maybe move behind Olorun. She's still doing pretty well, but not as crazy. And Arachne is one of those gods that does very well, but she does fall off as well if we look at the higher ranks a little bit, like tiny bit. Still a good god, still definitely a pub stomper and a ranked farmer on any level. So she keeps a place in A+, but I think she's not quite up there with these gods that just perform well on their own and in a team, basically. On the other hand, I am almost inclined to put Set up. I think Set has been just doing consistently well, even in multiple different roles. I know this is something that's maybe mentally influenced a little bit by competitive, but Set, I think, is just performing very well right now. And if you learn Set, you're not going to regret it. But we can also move up. Where is he? Is he still down here somewhere? Oh, let's find him. There should be... Here, at the bottom of A. This guy goes up. And I am going to put Guan Yu either an A+ or S. He is definitely super strong right now. I think it's a lot of things that come together. He had his own buff a while ago, then certain item changes that affect him too that he can just utilize well. And then I think it's also just a part of people just playing him again. Yeah, I think we're gonna put him... Maybe I should put him into S. Maybe just put him into S. I think Guan is just great right now. I think there's no reason not to pick Guan. And it's also nice because he's so flexible and where you can play him. Okay. Then we have a few gods here that we can just kind of go through. Maybe actually... Yeah, we also have some patch changes to go through, so maybe let's talk about those first. So we have a buff for Anhur, who was in 7.10, who is doing a little bit better... He's like slightly above average now, but I don't know if I would put him into A+, so more like high tier A god. Then Ardio had a buff because she was not doing that well. And I think I placed her too high, to be honest. I think I placed her in A. And especially considering that even with the buff, she's still significantly underperforming, I can no longer justify that. She is going into B. She is B material. As we're looking down here already, I'm going to just swap around in order a little bit and then just move things up and down as I feel. Loki goes up. Loki is not a C tier material anymore. Loki, I think, is a situational god, at least in anticipation of his performance possibly going up with the next patch. We could put him in A. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put him towards the end of A. And we'll see. He could be going into B again. He's kind of somewhere in between there. Or maybe put him at the start of B. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You get the idea. If you're listening, then you know. He's somewhere in the lower region, situational region still, but he's doing better in some ways, and that might turn out well for him in the long run. People learn to play that, especially if they learn to use this 3 to counter knockbacks, knockups, and stuff like that. Then we have a Fenrir buff. So he is actually doing a little better, but he's still around average, so we're just gonna put him in A as well. Just like somewhere in A. We have an Osiris buff though, and that one is really surprising. Osiris got a pretty significant buff and some item changes that affect him as well, and he's actually doing really badly, so we're gonna have to put him in B. He's not like an end of B, like I think he has potential to go back up to A, but he's not been doing as well as you would think for a god that just got a buff and everything. But that's just how it goes sometimes. Serket is still below average, so she can stay there. She got a little bit of a buff. Vaman got a bit of a buff, and he's slightly above average, which is basically where I already placed him. So yeah, not really anything changing there. Then we have some changes from 7.10. Namely, there's a Sun Wukong nerf in there, but that's just the damage from his ultimate, so he's really just still doing well. Looking at this area right here, though, there's a god that I want to put down, and that is Hercules. Hercules, you can justify up there in competitive. In competitive, you might possibly be here. But the problem with Hercules is he seems to only perform well in competitive and nowhere else. Maybe it's down to the like heavy reliance on his 2 or to the heavy reliance on the team following up. But he's not doing the same way in ranked at all or in casual at all. So he's actually B tier material as well, and that's unfortunate. So I heavily misjudged him based on going too much by his competitive performance. So he would have been A before, and now I would possibly even say B. Because he got that nerf, and that nerf just nerfs him for competitive but hits casual as well, which is kind of sad, to be honest. So yeah, not sure what's gonna happen with him after this. Then we have Amaterasu, who got a nerf, but she's still doing well, so it doesn't really matter. We had a Cupid nerf, but he's still doing really well, so it doesn't really matter. We had a Ram nerf, and Ram is like top tier in competitive, but he's very, very average in non-competitive. So I'm assuming I already put him into A somewhere, because if that is the case, that is not actually going to change. Let me see. Where can I find Ram? Yeah, he's in A, so he stays where he is. Hera got a nerf. She was doing pretty well for a while, but she only dropped slightly below average, so she's like end of A tier maybe now. She didn't really lose out on much through that. Haboir got a nerf, and that one is fascinating to me, because he actually also went below average in low ranks with this, but he's still doing okay, or like average in high ranks, so we're actually going to put him down from A+ to A. He's just a solid A god right now. So we have to see how it develops, because it's just such an imbalance. It's just very hard to apparently get his full potential. I think it mostly relies on his 2 being either utilized effectively or not. Then we have a Kuzenbo nerf, and this is unfortunate because this is aimed at competitive, I think, and it's not doing me any favors in non-competitive, so he's definitely going down in performance a lot, and yeah, we see that reflected. And then we had a nerf to Herc. We already looked at him, so he's really awful in ranked, sadly. And now let's see who else we have that kind of is performing really well that didn't really catch on before. So there is Discordia, who's been performing really, really well in ranked. Like I think it's like 57% win rate or something. Just absolutely crazy. So we're gonna put her up. Actually, I wanted to just quickly show you some things because I mentioned Bastet and Kronos. So this is Bastet in Conquest in Diamond Plus. She's at 54.55% win rate. So again, super, super interesting, super, super high win rates and all these places here. And you know what? I'm gonna put her in A+. I don't know why she's doing that. I don't know how. Like, there's not even anything crazy in the items or anything if you look at it. Well, like, never mind, there's a little bit crazy stuff, but if we go by the amount of times that things are built, it's like, I don't know where it's coming from, but something happens, somebody figures out something with Bastet that just really makes it do well. And Kronos, yeah, this is also Diamond Plus, 52% win rate, so also doing a lot better than before. Okay, back to where we were. So Discordia definitely doing very, very well at the moment, so she's going up. Then we have Samdi. I made a whole video about this, said this guy is doing so well, let's see when he's being picked in the SPL, like he's super good in ranked. One day later, no, on the same day, a few hours later, he was picked in the SPL. Something goes up, something goes like A+. And then we also have Medusa. Medusa is double interesting. Medusa is actually statistically performing pretty well already, and she's getting a buff next patch, so yeah, let's put it up here somewhere actually. She's gone towards the top. We have Aries, who is doing surprisingly well. I did not expect this, but Aries actually, with his buff, I suppose maybe just more people wanted to play him because of it, but he does seem to do better. Let me see where I put him here. So Aries is actually going to be an A+ card for now. Who would have thought that? Then we have Ra. I think the Ra buff was pretty huge, and he's doing well with the slow cleanse and everything. So let's find him. Probably somewhere around A. Yeah, oh, he goes up here as well. That brings us to Amaterasu. We already have her up there. Hades already up there, still doing very well. Mercury also doing really, really well in ranked still. I think Mercury is another one of those sleeper gods that just always does kind of well. And somebody else who does really well is Pele at the moment. So she's going to go like towards the end of A+ here. Erlang Shen, I'm going to actually put him at the front of A+. Like I'm so tempted to put Erlang Shen into S because he's so like versatile, easy to play, strong, high early game pressure, doesn't fall off too hard. He has a little bit of everything. Yeah, that's all I could say. We talked about Oleron already. Chiron, fascinating. This one I also did not expect. It seems to be the time of the heavily ability-based hunters at the moment, with Cupid being up there. Neith did really well for a while. Then we have Medusa. And now Chiron is showing his potential as well. So he's going to get an A+. Surprisingly. Poseidon also still above average. I'm going to put him more towards the end here. He's not quite that great anymore, but he's still doing pretty well. Same is true for Red Tosca, by the way. But we're actually looking at these two guys. We might as well take care of them right now. That is not true for Ullr. Ullr is going down hard. I'm sorry, Ullr players. This is nothing personal. Ullr is just really not doing well in ranked. I'm not sure. I thought, you know, maybe it's just in low ranks, but even in the higher ranks, he's not pulling his weight. So he's going to go down for now and will go up again if something changes. I guess that maybe is the Heartseeker nerf already? Yeah, I think the Heartseeker is already on live. I don't know. If not, then it's going to be even worse for him. But maybe some changes there, or maybe some changes to the other items, like that just got like minor stat nerfs. Maybe that affected him. It just doesn't work for him right now. And Heimdall is in a similar boat where he's just not pulling his weight in ranked at all. You could also argue him for B tier. I'm a bit torn. I feel like we're gonna give him a bottom A for now, but it could also be B tier. That one is just a bit unclear to me where these stats come from or who plays them how, and I'm gonna look into it more before I make a full judgment that would put him into B. Maybe like next patch, maybe we'll put him into B if he doesn't pull his weight back up. And Bats has been doing very well. Got a bit of a buff, so we're gonna put him into A+ now as well. And Vulcan has been doing really well, which is important because Vulcan is also getting a buff next patch for no reason, if you look at his ranked stats at least. So Vulcan definitely goes to A. I'm going to put him at the top of A+ here, and Vulcan could honestly potentially become an S tier god for rank specifically, because the big play against Vulcan is get close to him, get behind his turret, get in his face, and then he can't do that much. He can backfire and try to meatball you, and that's it. And if that doesn't work out, then he has a problem. Now he can drop his ultimate on you as well, which does a lot of damage. Scaling went up from like up to 75%, I think, or something at close range from 50%. I don't know, but it's gonna hurt a lot more. And then yeah, Tsukuyomi also still doing well, like I said. Maybe Tsukuyomi is not the first one here though. I honestly think Tsukuyomi is more like here-ish. I don't know, somewhere like it. They're not really in order, but I think he's not like the top guy right now. Who is interesting, who gets the way up, is Nox. She can go into A now, I think. The clear buff, I think, is going to be very interesting, and this is obviously a prediction because we haven't seen this in action yet, but I do think that it will make a significant difference for her. And Nox is already doing well, actually, put it higher, in Conquest in general, so she can, in non-Conquest modes in general, so she can go up. Like, she's not doing well, but she's doing better than the Conquest, let's put it this way. Her win rate is actually abysmal everywhere, or was for the longest time. Speaking of abysmal win rates, let's put Thor down, because Thor is not doing well at the moment at all. He doesn't really offer enough, so he's going down. Athena's getting a buff. I find it hard to say what this is going to do, because Athena, this is a cleave on her last basic, and Athena is primarily played in support at the moment, and I don't think in support this will be a massive deal, because a clear in support is pretty decent already for a support, honestly. But it could do something for her jungle. So I don't know if this is going to happen. We're going to just put her in and wait and see. It could be an interesting Athena jungle meta, who knows? Would be hilarious to see. I'd love it, but we don't know if that's going to happen. So just putting up a little bit for now. Bacchus also gets a buff to the chug, giving you power now. He is currently set by slightly below average, so maybe that will just put him on average, so he's like around the same rams as Athena here. Then we have the goddess who shall not be named. She's getting a buff to a wing gust, and she is actually mostly bad in ranked at the moment, except for one division, except in platinum. So I'm gonna just keep her in A, just put her up a little bit as well, because this could just make her, like, stabilize her performance a little bit more. Then we have Yeoman Gunder, who's currently slightly below average, but he is getting a buff that'll increase his knock-up height and decrease the cooldown of that. And I think that has a lot of potential. I want to make a prediction with this one. I'm going to put him... No, maybe not. Maybe that's too bold. I'm going to put him at the front of A, maybe. Somewhere here. I don't know what this is going to do for him. This is one of those buffs that could do absolutely nothing, or it could just catapult him up. So because it could make him so much better in support that suddenly he's good. It's very hard to determine that with things like knock-up height, because you don't really... Like, you have to get a feel for how much time that translates into, and then how much of an impact that has in combination with the shorter cooldown. So, yeah. It could do something for him that pushes him up, for sure. Medusa, we already talked about. She's going to be pretty good at the moment. I think Cthulhu I'm actually probably going to just put, like, towards the end of A+. I think he's still a good god. I haven't actually looked at his numbers. The numbers may not reflect this because he's actually harder to play. But I think, yeah, I think putting him in A yet would not do him justice. Then we have Odin. Odin got a base damage buff on the 3, or is getting one. After he already got another buff, and he's already doing pretty well. He's already above average. So actually, I think with this buff, he is going to be above average. So I'm not quite sure why they didn't wait out the second buff a little bit longer. Maybe this is more of a competitive change. Vulcan we already talked about. Shivalanka is getting a buff with his scaling on the 3 being increased from 30 to 50%, which I think for like mid-game scenarios is actually pretty interesting, and for like aggressive playstyles. Shivalanka is also one of those gods that, similar to Freyja, is either like almost not there, or he's just very, very present. And he is performing average right now. So for the first time in a long time, that's not the case. But now he's getting a buff. So maybe this buff will actually bring him higher. Maybe this will actually put him into A+. The reason why I don't want to put him there is because it's so dominated by very ability-based hunters at the moment. By Cupid, by Medusa. Anhur is probably like higher here as well. So those can typically deal decently with him. The counter matchups aside, it's just if he gets pressured very heavily by those ability-based characters, that just delays his late game, that delays his everything basically, and therefore I'm not like sure if this change will redirect that entirely. So it would more require for other gods to drop down for him to go up basically. Then we have Shang-Kui, who's got various buffs actually to his damage. Currently his performance is average, but it drops off in the higher ranks. So I think these damage increases are interesting, but they don't necessarily mesh with how he's currently played. And that was the idea behind them. Iris wants to just give him more power to work with, so he can build more power and he can build more damage focused instead of going bruiser. But I don't know if that will really change, or if he'll just do a little bit more damage as a bruiser. So it's, you know, just up here as well. Middle of A kind of thing. Top of A. Chark gets a buff as well. And Chark is actually doing alright. Chark's actually not a B tier god for once. Because Chark's stats are going up. And if he's getting this buff as well, then that might just put him into A. Shocker, I know. But what do you know? Things happen. Things change. And with that, let's quickly have a look over the ones that we have here. Okay, yeah, as we already gone through. Just want to touch on the ones we haven't talked about yet. Red Tusker actually still doing pretty well win rate wise, so nothing changing here. Kali also doing surprisingly better than Bakasura as well, even in higher ranks. I wasn't sure if that was still going to be the case. It is still the case, so no change there. Nemesis also, yeah, I think we talked about that. Yeah, we talked about everything here. We've talked about all the B tier gods at this point as well. I think Apwash, no change there, just still having a rough one. Krononos is going up a little bit. I think he's doing a little bit better in general, so he can actually be moved up. King Arthur could almost be C tier. Like, he's not doing well in ranked at all. Competitive god, 100%. Tier is also not doing very well. The other ones we have talked about. Susanoo. Susanoo is also going down. Susanoo is not doing well right now. Susanoo had a few changes that affected him. Now the Heartseeker nerf is gonna hurt, and Hydra's nerf a while ago, I think. Is that, how long ago was that? Quite a while. Never mind. But yeah, a lot of item changes that just affect him a little bit, that just make him weaker here and there, and he's just not getting enough damage off anymore to really effectively work better than other assassins. I think that's just my problem. Like, I would pick a Pele over Susanoo, basically. That's the point. And let me see if I have anyone else that is not been addressed. Fenrir, I think we have talked about. Where is he? I think he must have been around A. Yes, he is an A there. Okay, fine. That works out. All the other ones here I have talked about. And then let's have a quick look through the A tier. Sylvanas probably stays A tier. It's just like middle of the pack. I think I had some expectations for a buff affecting him, and it didn't, so that happened. And Merlin, I'm actually not sure. I did not look up Merlin in Izanami. They could maybe be a bit overrated. No, it's probably still A. I don't think it's higher than A right now. Then Mulan, also interesting. She gets a little bit of a buff, but I don't think it's going to change much. Achilles also someone maybe, yeah, more like higher A. He's pretty good overall, I would say, but just struggles in certain scenarios, and I don't think it's his golden time right now. Yeah, Baba Yaga goes down. Baba Yaga is not doing enough. I really thought she would be at this point, but I guess it's just too hard focused on late game. I feel like, especially in ranked, like too many games just get surrendered or thrown before that if somebody's not doing well on Baba Yaga. So yeah, she's just not pulling her weight all the way through, unfortunately. Hell is someone interesting. She's been looked at a little bit in competitive, might be doing pretty well. And oh, that reminds me. Let's see where she is. There is, well, we'll stumble across in a second. Let's see. Arachne, I think, yeah, should be average. MC could also go up almost. I mean, let's put him A, like top end A. He's doing pretty well in ranked specifically. I think I didn't look too much into detail about the exact outcomes for him. Polybuff, I don't think did that much. Yeah, these guys all stay on A. Bellona is having a rough one, especially in higher ranks. Bellona, I think, is more B tier. She's more there with the Osiris right now. These guys are all fine. Bracken does really, really well on really high ranks. We're just gonna put him A+. Why not? He's doing pretty good for himself. I think Cerberus is also doing pretty decent, like up here. Yep, these guys all look fine around where they are. Nothing too crazy or upsetting here. Noir, I haven't actually looked into her stats. She could be higher as well. I'm definitely putting her towards the higher end here. Just kind of shifts around a little bit at the moment, I think, but generally speaking, a pretty good god. And then we have all these guys who all definitely belong around A. Chang'e, here, Chang'e. Chang'e also has a very interesting performance, I think, in higher ranks or in ranked in general. Actually, let me quickly look that up just so I don't tell you anything wrong here, because this one is the only one I'm not 100% sure from the top of my head anymore. But I remember seeing something very interesting. Yeah, here, 57% win rate in Diamond Plus. Third in win rate. And if we look at Master specifically, yeah, we have 56%. If we look at Diamond specifically, we have 57%. So across the board, doing really, really well. Very interesting to me. I think Doom Orb may be a factor in there. I just really think that Chang'e and Doom Orb work super well because she's already such a mobile god. We can see her like she's being played kind of defensively, but it seems that she's being played in mid lane a lot actually with all these damage items. Less tanky items here, or just magical damage solo. But when she's played, she's doing well. So she's going up to A+, probably like in front of Vulcan. Yeah, let's swap this around like this. And then we should be done. I think this should be all of the gods that I have any thoughts about. So no C tier this time. I don't think we could argue if King Arthur's there or if some of these guys are there, because they're like, they're all not doing great. But then the point with C tier is just bad, right? Whereas B tier is more like in the hands of the right player, of a good player. They can still work. And I think that's pretty much true for all of these gods. Like, Cat, for example, got a buff, and I think she still doesn't feel that great, but in certain scenarios, I would argue she can be pretty solid. And if you're the right player, you know how to play her, then that that brings her up essentially. And then she's still viable against S tier guards even. It's gonna be hard, but it's still viable. Like you can still put her against Tsukuyomi or Set, and there's still a chance that you can win that game. And at the same time, we don't have anyone who's completely outright broken right now. Release Tsukuyomi would have been there, but he got nerfed pretty quick, and no one else right now is taking the spot. And maybe if we get a new guard, but I don't know about that. Loki didn't take that spot either for sure. And yeah, so it's a very balanced list. Keep in mind that this area here, like S, A+, these guys are all high win rate guards. They're all around the same realms. They're all doing well in their own ways. It's not really a massive disparity between them, and likewise the A guards are just like a few percent lower in win rate. So yeah, I think it looks good. I think it looks more balanced than it does most of the time, which is a good sign in my opinion, because we are going towards Worlds, and Iris needs the game to be balanced for Worlds in order to have it interesting and not have any permabans and stuff like that there. Keep in mind there's two guards in a known place, and I'm not going to do that still. That's Yemoja and Persephone. These are the guards that in competitive would probably go to SS. Maybe Persephone more to S at the moment, but Yemoja would at least be going to SS. That is a pure competitive thing though. If you look at their performances in ranked, it just goes down like this. And I know that if I place them anywhere, it's just going to lead to arguments of why they are placed there, because either people are going to think of their competitive performance or people are going to think of their ranked performance, but not really consider both. And if we purely go by their ranked performance, it would just be really, really low, and it just looks really weird to put really good guards into B tier just because of ranked. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that with Hercules as well. I'm going to put him here as well. He would be B tier as well. These would probably all be around B tier in rank specific. Now, Persephone would be higher because she does better on higher ranks. But it's just going to be too much discussion. It's just going to be too much back and forth because at the end of the day, it's just not enough people that are good enough with them, and that's the problem. All right, that's it for this list. I hope that's give you a good overview of how things are right now, how gods are performing on the current patch. And yeah, we'll see how things develop, and I will make this again for the next patch or the patch after, whenever I find the time and I remember to do it, and I look at the stats again. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this was insightful. If you're new to the channel, feel free to sub button and make the bell. And also, if you want to support me, feel free to vote me on the Olympian, no, not Olympian, what's it called? Golden, I forgot. The thingo that's going on at the moment, where people can get nominated to win an award at HRX. That was really nice. I'll put the link down below. Other than that, I hope to see you for the next one soon. Duke Sloth, out.